What if I told you that some of the people you pass every day, the ones sitting beside you on the train, behind you in line, even living under the same roof, might not be conscious in the way you think, not soulless, not evil, but unawake, and not because they're bad, but because they've never actually activated the part of themselves that questions, reflects, or chooses. Right now, you're living in a world where more and more people are starting to realize something unsettling, that not everyone is here for the same reason, that some are here to wake up and some are just here to fill space. They follow scripts, they follow trends, they repeat what they've been taught, and when you try to go deeper with them, something feels off, like talking to an actor who forgot their next line. Ever felt that? Now, this isn't a video game, but the metaphor of the NPC, non-player character, is becoming more real than ever. And the terrifying part is, we might be surrounded by them, but before you click away, thinking this is just a sci-fi fantasy or conspiracy rabbit hole, let me show you the evidence. Because we're going to dig deep into what psychic Edgar Cayce warned us about. He didn't call them NPCs, but he described the same thing. Souls lost in karmic sleep, living without spiritual awareness, stuck in patterns they didn't even know they were repeating. The truth is, this isn't just theory anymore. The science, the psychology, and the mystical knowledge are all starting to line up. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Start with something simple. Have you ever heard someone say they don't have an inner voice? You'd think everyone has an inner monologue, right? That voice inside your head narrating thoughts, reflecting, planning. But research has shown a shocking fact. Not everyone experiences that. Not everyone talks to themselves in their mind. In fact, a significant percentage of people don't. No voice, no inner narrative, just stimulus and response. It's like walking through life with no narrator, just reacting to the environment. And when you ask them deeper questions, who are you really? What do you believe about existence? They either freeze up or give a textbook answer. Now think about what that means spiritually. If you don't question, if you don't observe your thoughts, if you don't reflect inwardly, are you really conscious? Edgar Cayce said this decades ago, the mind is the builder. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your focus, they shape your reality. But how can you build anything if you never take control of the blueprint? If you're just living someone else's design? This is where the idea of programming becomes disturbingly real. From the moment you were born, you were given scripts by your family, your culture, your education, the media, scripts about what to believe, how to behave, what to chase and what to fear, scripts that aren't questioned, scripts that were never chosen. And here's the most disturbing part. Most people never deviate from the script. Look around. The same phrases, the same goals, the same schedules. Wake up, work, scroll, consume, repeat. When someone challenges the norm, the system punishes them. Schools don't reward imagination. Workplaces don't reward reflection. Media doesn't encourage questioning. And somewhere deep down you've felt it, haven't you? That nagging feeling that something's not quite right. It's not paranoia, it's recognition. It's your awareness brushing up against the walls of the simulation. Because what you're living in isn't real, not fully. It's a stage, a set, a coded environment where everyone's playing a part they didn't even write. And the ones who notice it, they're the glitch. You've seen them. People who go blank when asked a question that isn't in their programming. People who get angry when challenged to think. People who recite opinions like they were downloaded, not discovered. It's like trying to have a spiritual conversation with a calculator. It doesn't compute. Cayce warned us about this too. He spoke of masses who had lost connection to their spiritual source, who lived from the body and the mind but not the spirit. He saw souls who were physically alive but spiritually asleep, operating on karmic loops, not choosing their lives, just reacting to them. And you can feel the difference when you meet someone who's awake, truly awake, You know it. Their presence is electric. They're not just repeating, they're creating. They ask questions. They hold silence. They vibrate on a different level, and they challenge you to wake up too. But let's go deeper. Why is it that so many people seem to repeat the same behaviors year after year, generation after generation, even when it destroys them? Because the subconscious is running the show. Science tells us that 95% of what you do every day is governed not by your conscious mind, but by your subconscious programming. That means for most people their life is nothing but a replay of yesterday's thoughts, habits, and emotions, and unless they interrupt that pattern, the loop never ends. Cayce called it soul amnesia, a forgetting of why you came here, a forgetting of your power, a forgetting of your divinity. And unless you wake up and remember, you get caught in the code, repeating lifetime after lifetime, never knowing you had the choice to break free. You see, an NPC doesn't mean someone is evil or less than. It means they haven't activated the part of themselves that questions reality. They haven't stepped outside the program. They are living from inputs, conditioned responses, triggers, ads, social rules, fear, approval, and you're not here to follow the script. You're here to disrupt it. That's why you're watching this. That's why even now something inside you is rising. A voice, a presence, a flicker of truth. You've always felt different. Not better, but more aware, more curious, more awake. Maybe you've even wondered if there's something wrong with you because you don't just go along with things the way others do. But what if that discomfort was the signal? What if the reason you felt out of place is because you're not meant to fit in? You're meant to remember. You're meant to wake up. Because once you see how many people are sleepwalking through life, how many are just programs reacting to their environment, you realize your responsibility isn't to convince them. It's to awaken yourself. And from that place, everything changes. So let's talk about something that might challenge everything you believe about human awareness. You've probably assumed, like most people do, that everyone is experiencing life the way you are, that everyone has a constant stream of thoughts running through their minds, that everyone has a voice inside, narrating, questioning, doubting, reflecting. But the truth? Not everyone has that voice. Not everyone has an inner monologue at all. Let that sink in. There are people walking around right now, interacting with the world, making decisions, without ever hearing a voice in their head. No internal dialogue, no silent debates, no self-directed questions. Just blank space between the ears until something in the environment triggers a reaction. Now, this isn't some fringe claim. Multiple studies have surfaced showing that a significant portion of the population, possibly even 20 to 30%, experience life without any verbal thoughts inside their mind. They don't hear themselves think. They don't simulate conversations. There's no internal back and forth. For them, thoughts are just impressions, images, reactions, but not words. So ask yourself this: if you don't talk to yourself, if you don't witness your thoughts, if you don't question your own behavior, are you really conscious? Or are you just reacting? It's uncomfortable to consider. Because we've been taught that all humans are the same inside, that everyone is thinking, feeling, pondering life just like we are. But that assumption might be a projection. Maybe you assume everyone thinks deeply because you think deeply. Maybe you assume others question reality because you question reality. But what if most people don't? What if they can't? This is where it gets even more disturbing, because if that voice, the one you hear in your head, is the spark of true self-awareness, what does it mean if someone doesn't have it? Are they fully present? Are they living with intention? Or are they just responding to code? Edgar Cayce hinted at this in a way that few understood at the time. He often spoke of individuals as being souls in transition, some more spiritually developed, others still lost in cycles of repetition. He described human life as a continuum of consciousness, where some are here to awaken, while others are simply running through unexamined patterns written long ago. And the more you look at society through that lens, the more it begins to make sense. You've seen it, people imitating each other without even realizing it, the same phrases repeated across social media, the same opinions recycled through headlines, the same expressions of outrage, word for word. It's like there's a giant script in the sky and everyone's reading from it, with slight variations. They mimic, they echo, but do they think? There's a phenomenon in psychology called social mimicry. It's when people unconsciously copy the behaviors, speech patterns, and emotional reactions of others. It's a survival mechanism, a way of blending in. But now take that to the extreme. Imagine if a person never left that state, if they never questioned whether their beliefs were actually theirs. That's what happens when you live on autopilot. You stop being a sovereign consciousness and become a mere, reflecting whatever the world throws at you. And the more layers you peel back, the darker it gets. Because if someone has no inner voice, no critical reflection, no questioning of why they feel what they feel, then they're not faking it. They aren't pretending to be unaware. They are unaware. Not in the sense that they're stupid or inferior, not in the sense that they lack a soul, but in the sense that their soul may not be fully online. They're living in a kind of spiritual sleep mode, present physically but dormant energetically, animated by instincts, social cues, and subconscious triggers. It's like watching a computer run background processes. It's on, it's functioning, but nobody's home. And once you recognize this, you start to realize something deeply empowering and deeply sobering. Because now you know that not everyone is experiencing life with the same depth as you. Not everyone can have the conversations you want to have. Not everyone is capable of the introspection you crave. And that's not something to hate, it's something to understand. Because spiritual awareness, true presence, is not universal, it's earned, it's remembered, it's awakened. And it doesn't come just because someone is alive. It comes when the soul starts to break free from the script. That's why some people you meet will inspire you with a single glance, while others feel like static. That's why some conversations nourish your spirit, while others leave you feeling like you just shouted into a void. The ancient mystics knew this, Edgar Cayce knew this, even the architects of major religions knew this, that there are layers of consciousness, levels of awareness, and not everyone is on the same level, not because they're less valuable, but because they haven't yet chosen to remember. You chose to remember, or at least you're trying. That's why you're still watching this. You've always known, deep down, that there's more to life than what you see. You've felt the emptiness in conversations that never go deeper than surface level. You felt the frustration of trying to explain something profound to someone who just doesn't get it and doesn't want to. Now you know why. They're not malfunctioning, they're running their program. And the moment you realize that, the game changes, because now you have a choice. You can either get angry that so many people are asleep, or you can become the reminder they might one day need. You can become the anomaly, the glitch, the proof that another way exists. But here's the truth you have to swallow before you can be free. Not everyone wants to wake up. Not everyone is meant to. At least, not yet. Some are here just to live out their loops, to follow their karma, to play their part in the grand cosmic story. And that's okay. Your job is not to shake everyone awake, your job is to stay awake yourself, because the moment you start believing the world is full of conscious, questioning minds, you'll keep expecting people to meet you at a level they've never accessed, and you'll keep being disappointed. But if you see the world for what it really is, a tapestry of different consciousness states, you stop being reactive, you stop being confused, and you start making deliberate choices about who you engage with, what you give your energy to, and how you shape your own reality. That is true awareness. That is true freedom. Once you realize that not everyone is awake, the next question becomes why. Why would a world built for growth, experience, and soul evolution allow so many to operate in a near unconscious state? The answer is as chilling as it is revealing, because that's exactly how the system was designed. Look around. The moment you're born, you're handed over to institutions, schools, media, politics, culture, each one claiming to prepare you for the real world. But if you look deeper, you'll see that they're not preparing you to think. They're preparing you to obey. Education isn't about awakening intelligence, it's about molding compliance. You sit in rows, you memorize facts. You're taught to listen, not to question. The bell rings, you move. You speak when spoken to. You regurgitate what you're told, and if you do it well enough, you're rewarded with a grade, a number, a gold star on the forehead. Does that sound like enlightenment? Or does it sound like training? Like programming? It's no accident. The school system, especially in the West, was built off industrial models, designed not to cultivate creativity but to produce obedient workers, cogs in a machine, parts in a system that doesn't want awakened beings. It wants predictability. It wants drones. And those who dare to question, those who color outside the lines, they are labeled difficult, disruptive, problematic. From the very beginning, you're conditioned to fear the feeling of standing alone. You are trained to conform. Now, zoom out and ask yourself, what happens when this structure is replicated across every layer of society? Because it doesn't stop at school. You're bombarded with messages from television, social media, advertising. It starts with cartoons and continues through college and into your career. Every screen is a transmitter. Every algorithm is a coder. Every headline is another line in the script. You are told what beauty is. You are told what success looks like. You are told who the heroes are and who the enemies should be, and the code gets tighter. Every time you scroll, every time you click, the system learns you, not to help you, to shape you. You are not just being watched, you are being written. And here's where it ties back to Edgar Cayce, in a way most have never considered. Cayce spoke often about soul groups, clusters of souls who incarnate together over and over again, bound by karmic ties. He described how many souls come to Earth still wrapped in cycles of forgetting. They come here asleep and leave asleep, only to come back again. He said these souls are caught in a kind of dream, a karmic inertia that keeps them acting out roles instead of awakening to their power. Now ask yourself, what kind of world would a soul like that choose? A world that supports awakening, or a world that enables unconscious repetition? This is why society often feels like a simulation, because for many it is. They are not here to break the loop, yet they are here to replay it. The same mistakes, the same pain, the same distractions. It's not because they're incapable, it's because they haven't remembered who they are, and the world around them is built to keep it that way. Everything is a distraction, new cycles that never end, products that hijack your dopamine and leave you more empty than before. The machine wants you busy, it wants you anxious, it wants you comparing, competing, consuming, because a soul that's distracted is a soul that won't go inward. And that's the real threat to the system, because the moment you stop and look within, the moment you realize that your thoughts were never truly yours, the moment you remember that you are not your programming, you become unpredictable, you become powerful. And that's exactly what the architects of this illusion are afraid of. Make no mistake, this is not a game of politics or economics. It's a spiritual war, one where the currency is your attention, your focus, your consciousness, and the battlefield is everywhere. When Cayce spoke of karmic sleepwalking, he wasn't describing bad people. He was describing people who never pause to question their inner script. People who mistake survival for purpose, comfort for truth, security for freedom. And that's why when you begin to wake up, the world starts to feel off. It's like seeing behind the curtain of a stage play and realizing the actors don't know they're acting. They're reciting lines, hitting their marks, reacting on cue, but the awareness isn't there, the soul isn't engaged. You've probably had moments where you felt this intensely. You asked someone a deep question, and they laughed it off. You expressed your desire to find truth, and they changed the subject. You shared something vulnerable, and they responded like a machine, emotionless and scripted. It's not always their fault. They were shaped by the system. They were trained to laugh at what's real and worship what's fake, because dreamers disrupt the simulation. And they, whoever you want to call them, the corporations, the elites, the system architects, they want dreamers. They want drones. Predictable, programmable, pacified. Because drones don't revolt. Drones don't meditate. Drones don't heal the inner child or question the voice in their head. Drones don't break out of the karmic code and awaken to their divinity. But you do. You're starting to feel it now, aren't you? That strange sense that there's something beyond all this. That the system can't explain everything. That maybe, just maybe, you were meant to do more than work, pay bills, and die. That feeling is not delusion. That's your soul sending a wake-up signal through the simulation. And once you hear it, you can never go back. By now, you're probably seeing it clearly, that society has been engineered to keep you asleep. But there's something even deeper going on, something far more personal. Because the real trap isn't just the system out there. It's the one running inside of you, your subconscious. You might think you're in control, that your decisions come from logic, free will, and clarity, but science and spiritual wisdom both tell a different story. Up to 95% of your daily behavior isn't conscious at all. It's subconscious. That means almost everything you do, say, feel, and react to is coming from programming you didn't choose. It's muscle memory of the mind, a series of loops you inherited, absorbed, or created under pressure, and unless you make it conscious, it becomes your destiny. This is what ancient mystics understood long before psychology caught up. And this is what Edgar Cayce tried to warn us about in reading after reading. He emphasized that unless you cleanse the mind, unless you purify your inner channels, your life will continue to echo with the same unresolved stories, same heartbreak, same financial struggles, same fear, same emotional roller coasters. Sound familiar? It's not a curse. It's a loop. And these loops run your life like scripts in a game. One small trigger, a word, a tone, a glance, and you're right back into a reaction you've repeated hundreds of times. No pause, no choice. Just play the role, say the line, act out the behavior. You tell yourself you're done with toxic relationships. Then you find yourself dating the same pattern in a different body. You say you'll break your financial ceiling. Then when opportunity comes, fear shuts the door. You decide to change, and for a few days you do. But then the gravity of the old self pulls you back in, and you wonder why. Because your subconscious is stronger than your intentions, until you make it conscious. Cayce called this process mental and spiritual cleansing, not just meditation, not just prayer. A deep, deliberate purification of the thought patterns you inherited from your family, your culture, your past lives. He believed the subconscious was not just a place of memory. It was a storage system for the soul's unresolved karma. In other words, you're not just repeating your stories, you're repeating generations of programming. The fear that your grandfather swallowed down every day before work still lives in your chest. The scarcity your mother felt when she couldn't pay the bills still echoes in your bank account. The guilt your ancestors carried still clings to your soul like a fog. And unless you go in and rewrite the code, it doesn't stop. That's why awareness alone isn't enough. Knowing you're on a loop isn't the same as breaking it. You have to interrupt the pattern. You have to create friction, conscious resistance. You have to choose something new, again and again, until the old program can no longer run by default. This is why so many spiritual teachers repeat the same message. You must become the observer. Because when you observe, you stop identifying. When you stop identifying, you stop reacting, and when you stop reacting, you create space for something new. But let's be real, that's easier said than done. Because most of your life has been automated, from how you brush your teeth to how you argue with your partner, from the posture you take when you feel small, to the tone you use when you're trying to protect yourself. These aren't choices, they're scripts. And here's the secret most people miss. The subconscious loves repetition. It feeds on it. That's how it survives. It wants routine. It wants familiar. Even if that familiar is toxic. Even if that routine is killing your dreams. That's why you can be deeply unhappy and still struggle to change. Because part of you, deep down, believes the pain is safer than the unknown. And this is where Cayce's work shines brightest. He didn't just point to the problem, he gave the solution. He taught that healing doesn't happen by force, it happens by alignment. You must align your conscious thoughts, your spiritual intent, and your physical actions into a singular direction. That's when the subconscious starts to recalibrate. He spoke of affirmations not as motivational fluff, but as spiritual commands. Statements of intent that rewire the inner circuitry. But they must be spoken with belief and backed with action. You don't say, "I am free," while still making choices from fear. You don't say, "I am abundant," while still hoarding or sabotaging every opportunity. You must live the new script consistently, until the old one dissolves. And here's the best part. Your subconscious isn't your enemy. It's your servant, a powerful, tireless worker that will carry out whatever blueprint it's given. If you feed it chaos, it will build a chaotic life. But if you feed it clarity, peace, vision, it will start to construct a life that matches. You are the architect, the coder, the programmer, and the more conscious you become of your loops, the more control you gain over your reality. So ask yourself, what loops are you still running? Are you reacting like your parents? Are you replaying your childhood wounds in your adult relationships? Are you chasing validation from systems that never gave it to you in the first place? That's the NPC code in action, not because you're soulless, but because you haven't claimed authorship yet. But you can. It starts with noticing. Noticing the moment you want to react, and choosing presence instead. Noticing the lie that says you're not good enough, and questioning its origin. Noticing the emotion that rises in your chest and breathing through it instead of becoming it. Every time you do that, you weaken the old script. You pull your energy out of the unconscious pattern and reclaim your power. And that's what waking up really means. It's not just about seeing through society's lies. It's about seeing through your own illusions. The stories you've told yourself about who you are, the beliefs you accepted without ever questioning, the roles you played because someone else wrote the script. You don't have to be that anymore. You can uninstall the NPC code. You can write your own. And once you do, everything changes. So what happens when the script starts to crack? What happens when the code you've been unconsciously running begins to falter? When something slips through that doesn't quite fit? You felt it. Those strange moments when reality doesn't behave the way it's supposed to. When time stretches or contracts. When you think of someone and they text you. When you see the same number over and over again on clocks, receipts, license plates. When déjà vu hits and for a split second you feel like you're watching your own life from behind the curtain. That's not your imagination. That's not coincidence. That's the simulation, glitching. It's what some call synchronicity. Carl Jung gave it a name. Edgar Cayce gave it meaning. These aren't just accidents or random alignments. These are spiritual pings, messages embedded in the code to wake you up, to make you pause, to make you question. Because when something breaks pattern, you notice. When reality doesn't obey its usual rules, a door opens in your mind, and if you're paying attention, you can walk through it. Cayce described these moments as whispers from the divine. He believed that your higher self, your true consciousness beyond the body, was always trying to reach you, but it doesn't scream, it doesn't shove. It nudges. A feeling in your gut, a chill down your spine, a sequence of numbers you can't explain. 111, 333, 1111. These are not just patterns. They are codes, reminders, breadcrumbs leading you back to presence. So ask yourself, how often do you actually notice, not just observe, but truly receive the signs around you? We're taught to ignore them, to chalk them up to chance, to laugh them off. But what if those moments are the most real part of your experience? What if everything else, the routine, the noise, the programming, is the illusion? Synchronicities appear when your awareness is rising. They're like pressure points in a simulation, testing how awake you really are. The more you pay attention, the more they show up. Because reality responds to consciousness. Let that sink in. Reality responds to consciousness. That's not poetry, that's mechanics. Your awareness acts like a spotlight in the dark. Wherever you shine it, reality shifts. New data loads in, new options appear. But if you walk through life half asleep, the program doesn't need to change, it just repeats. But when you question, when you interrupt the loop, when you say, wait a second, something's off, the system listens. It has to, because now you're interacting with it, not just moving through it. Have you ever had that moment where something happens that's so bizarre, so precise, so perfect in timing, that you feel the hair on your arms stand up? A song comes on that answers a question you were just thinking. A stranger says the exact words you needed to hear. You open a book at random, and there it is, the message, the next step. You didn't find it. It found you. That's not a glitch. That's the universe showing its hand. That's source reaching through the veil. But here's the key. You have to meet it. You have to be willing to pause, to ask, what am I being shown here? What part of me needed this? What pattern is trying to break? Because signs don't mean anything if you ignore them. They're not magic. They're mirrors. And when you see them clearly, they reflect exactly what's shifting inside you. She often emphasized this. He said that signs, dreams, and so-called coincidences were the language of the soul. They speak when your conscious mind is too distracted to hear. They sneak in through cracks in the code. Little debug logs from source reminding you you're in the game, but you're not of it. So ask yourself this, and answer honestly. When's the last time you truly chose a thought? Not reacted, not recycled, not repeated something you heard, but actually stopped, breathed, and created a thought from pure awareness. That's rare, and you know it. Because most thoughts aren't yours. They're echoes, hand-me-downs from childhood, media, trauma, culture, and unless you slow down and look them in the face, they run you, they become you. But that one conscious thought, that one moment of total presence, that's the crack in the simulation, that's the place where reality bends. That's where freedom begins. So, what are these signs trying to tell you? They're telling you that you are more than the character you're playing. They're telling you that the dream you thought was life is starting to dissolve. They're telling you that your higher self is not far away, floating in some spiritual dimension. It's right here, inside the silence, waiting for you to listen. The signs are not there to decorate your life. They're there to awaken it. Because the moment you take them seriously, the moment you stop dismissing them as weird or random, the moment you say, I see you, the universe leans in, and the script changes. That's why these experiences feel so electric. They're not part of the usual code. They're invitations, nudges, breaks in the matrix calling you to question everything you thought was real. So pay attention. If you've been seeing patterns, repeating numbers, strange dreams, moments of unexplainable clarity, you're not going crazy. You're remembering. You're beginning to interact with the architecture of reality in a way few dare to, not as a victim, not as a puppet, but as a conscious player. And that's when things start to get interesting. Let's ask the question most people are too afraid to voice out loud. Are all people really people? Not just biologically, not just physically, but spiritually. Do all individuals walking this earth have active, fully engaged souls? Or are there some, perhaps more than we'd like to admit, who are just here, present in body but absent in awareness, moving, functioning, reacting, but with no deeper presence behind the eyes? What you're about to hear might challenge everything you've assumed about humanity, but stay with it, because this isn't about judgment, this is about discernment. Edgar Cayce had a fascinating take on the soul's relationship to the body. He described human life as the temporary merging of three forces: spirit, mind, and body. And he was clear. A soul chooses to enter a body, not always fully, not always at the same depth, and not always with the same degree of engagement. Sometimes the soul enters for a full experience, ready to evolve, heal karma, awaken consciousness. Other times, the soul only partially incarnates. He described these partial incarnations as souls still tethered to other planes, souls that had not fully committed to the earth experience, some still working through confusion from past lives, others not yet ready to face the pain they came here to resolve. And in those cases, the body becomes a kind of shell, a placeholder running on program until the soul chooses to truly show up. That sounds strange, doesn't it? But it might explain why you've looked into some people's eyes and felt nothing, no spark, no recognition, no soul presence, just noise. It's not always malevolent. It's not always dark. Sometimes it's just empty, flat, hollow, like the lights are on, but no one's really home. Dolores Cannon, one of the world's most respected hypnotherapists and metaphysical researchers, expanded on this idea. She introduced the concept of backdrop people. According to Cannon's regressions with thousands of clients under deep hypnosis, some individuals on this planet aren't what we assume. She claimed that not all humans are incarnated souls. Some, she said, are background characters in the matrix of physical reality. Projections or placeholders placed here to fill in the simulation. They serve a function. They react. They provide context for others, but they don't carry the same divine mission as awakened beings. This doesn't mean they're bad, it means they're part of a construct. Think about it. In a video game, there are main characters fully coded, capable of deep interactions, and then there are background figures. They walk in circles, say the same lines, they populate the environment, but they don't evolve, they don't grow, they don't change. Cannon said, many of these backdrop people are here as set dressing for the learning and development of those who are here to evolve. They create contrast, friction, even resistance. But they're not here to awaken because awakening was never their assignment. That's hard to accept, especially if you've been taught that everyone is equal in consciousness. But equality in potential is not the same as equality in presence. You can't teach presence. It's either active or dormant. And that's the part Edgar Cayce repeatedly urged people to wake up to. He said that many souls walk through life unaware of their divine nature, not because it's hidden, but because they're still asleep, spiritually asleep. Running loops, reacting from unhealed wounds, operating from lower levels of awareness. So how do you tell the difference? How do you know if someone is spiritually present or still caught in soul sleep? It's not about intellect. It's not about words. It's not about status or appearance. It's about resonance. You feel the difference. When you're around someone who is awake, you sense depth, a stillness behind the eyes, a listening quality, a spaciousness that allows truth to breathe. You feel safe. Seen, stirred, they speak in ways that awaken something ancient in you. But when someone is spiritually asleep, the conversation hits walls. It loops, it deflects, it avoids depth. When you speak about meaning, purpose, higher reality, they shift the subject, make a joke, or worse, become hostile. They can talk for hours but say nothing real. They react without reflection. And if you're sensitive, you'll feel it in your body, like static in your nervous system, a hollowness behind the words. That's not an insult, it's an observation. And it's crucial to recognize, because not everyone in your life is capable of meeting you at the level you're operating on, and that's not their fault, but it is your responsibility to discern it. Otherwise, you'll keep trying to wake people who were never meant to rise in your presence. You'll exhaust your energy trying to find soul contact where there is none. You'll confuse noise for connection and reaction for resonance. And you'll start to doubt your own clarity. But once you accept this, that some people are dormant, others are background, and a rare few are fully here, you stop chasing unconscious approval. You start aligning with soul presence, and your whole vibration shifts. Cayce always said that your environment is a reflection of your consciousness. So if you continue to surround yourself with soul sleepers, your reality will keep mirroring disconnection. But if you choose to walk in your light, you will begin to attract others who are doing the same. Because awakeness calls to awakeness. Consciousness magnetizes consciousness, and you are not here to beg the sleepers to wake up. You are here to awaken so completely that your very presence makes them remember they are more. That's the only real invitation. Not a lecture, not a lesson, just you as the living proof. So ask yourself, truly and without fear, who in your life is alive only on the surface, and who sees you through the eyes of the soul? That question will change everything. So what if I told you that reality itself might be made of code? Not metaphorical code, literal information, a digital structure beneath the physical, where what you experience as solid, stable and real is actually the output of invisible instructions, vibrational programming responding to your consciousness in real time. This isn't science fiction, it's science catching up to spirituality. Theoretical physicist John Archibald Wheeler, one of the great minds of the 20th century, introduced a radical idea that's now gaining momentum. He called it it from bit. His theory, that everything in the universe, every it, arises from a fundamental binary source, bit. In other words, information creates matter, not the other way around. This flips everything on its head, because it means reality doesn't come from stuff. It comes from data, from intention, from consciousness interpreting signals. Just like a video game doesn't exist as a solid world until the console renders it, your reality doesn't fully crystallize until your consciousness collapses it into form. Sound familiar? It should, because ancient mystics, esoteric texts, and Edgar Cayce himself were speaking about this long before quantum physicists put words to it. Cayce channeled visions of energy fields, vibrational healing, and spiritual blueprints, describing how thoughts, emotions, and intentions form the architecture of your reality. He said, your beliefs don't just influence your life, they program it. That the body is a receiver, the mind is the transmitter, and the soul, the observer and co-creator. He didn't call it a simulation, but he described it like one. He spoke of life as a school for the soul, a place of deliberate design with karmic feedback loops, energetic mirrors, and divine timing, all operating according to laws more subtle than gravity. And now science is beginning to confirm what he knew intuitively. Quantum physics reveals that particles don't exist in fixed locations until observed. Until you pay attention, the universe remains in probability, not certainty. Schrödinger's cat is both alive and dead until you look. Reality is not preset. It's rendered by interaction. Think about that. You are not walking through a fixed world. You're interacting with a responsive interface, one that responds to your focus, your beliefs, your energy signature. And just like code in a simulation, it can be changed. You don't need a keyboard, you need consciousness. And the tools? They're ancient, metaphysical technologies passed down for thousands of years. Affirmation is one, but not the shallow kind, not the just say it and wait for magic kind. Real affirmations are vibrational instructions, spoken codes. They must be embedded with belief, repeated with presence, and spoken in alignment with intention. When you say, "I am safe," your nervous system listens. Your subconscious adapts. Your electromagnetic field shifts. You rewrite the script. Breathwork is another. Breath is the original carrier wave. In every tradition, Hindu pranayama, Taoist qigong, Sufi dikre, the breath is the bridge between worlds, between body and spirit, between this plane and higher ones. Because when you change your breath, you change your frequency. When you slow it, deepen it, hold it with awareness, you send new data through your system. You disrupt the fear code, you quiet the static, you enter a clearer signal, and perhaps the most powerful tool of all: intention. Intent is not thought. It's not wish. It's not fantasy. Intention is directive force, the command line of the soul. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are aligned with. And alignment happens when your thoughts, emotions, and energy all move in the same direction, without contradiction. That's why some people seem to attract miracles effortlessly. They've written clean code, no internal sabotage, no cross-wired beliefs, just clarity. And when intention is clear, reality reconfigures. So what does this mean for you? It means you are not stuck. No matter how deep your patterns, no matter how many loops you've lived, no matter how programmed the world around you seems, because underneath all of it, reality is listening to you. You are the interface. And when you shift your frequency, when you speak with command, when you breathe with presence and move with deliberate intent, you start to change the code beneath the experience. You begin to see the patterns. The random traffic lights that always turn green when you're in flow, the coincidences that feel scripted, the mistakes that lead you to your greatest breakthroughs. These are not accidents. They are the environment reflecting your vibration. This is what Edgar Cayce meant when he said mind is the builder. It's not a poetic phrase. It's a literal description of how reality is shaped. Your mind builds the structure. Your spirit animates it. Your body walks it out. And the more aligned those three become, the more fluid your reality becomes. But it starts with one question. What code are you running right now? Is it the code you chose? The one you inherited? Because here's the truth most never dare to face. Your life is a program, and you're either the coder or the character. Most people never pick up the tools. They live the default script. They defend it, justify it, die with it still running. But you're here because something inside you knows the system is open, it's editable, and your consciousness holds the pen. So breathe that in, say what you mean what you say, and walk with the awareness that every step you take sends new instructions into the field. This is your simulation now. What will you make of it? If this reality is a kind of simulation, if you now understand that the world reflects not just matter but your inner patterns, then you're faced with a choice, a powerful one. You can keep playing the character, or you can start becoming the coder. You're not here to conform to the code, you're here to rewrite it. Every belief, every reaction, every emotional trigger that once ran your life like a script, you have the power to revise it. Because the truth is, no loop is too old, and no conditioning is too deep to be broken by consciousness. But this doesn't happen by accident. It happens through practice, through discipline, through self-honesty so radical, most people will never attempt it. And that's what makes you different. You wouldn't be listening to this if some part of you weren't ready. So how do you begin? You start by going inward, not to escape the world, but to reclaim your role in it. The first practice is meditation, not as a technique, but as a remembering. Meditation is where the noise ends. It's where the code slows down. It's where you stop reacting and start observing. In that stillness, you begin to see the loops not as who you are, but as echoes you've carried. Thought forms that once defined you now become transparent. You begin to witness the program instead of being absorbed by it. Edgar Cayce spoke often about silence. He called it the environment where the soul meets God. He didn't mean religious silence. He meant the fertile void where the subconscious can be rewritten by spirit. So sit, not to control your thoughts, but to see them, because what you can see you can change. The second practice is shadow integration. You can't rewrite code if you keep hiding the corrupted lines, the parts of you you've disowned, the anger, the shame, the jealousy, the pain. Those are the exact places where your freedom is buried. As long as you push them away, they run silently in the background, influencing your choices, relationships, and identity. But when you bring them into the light, not to fix them, but to love them, they lose their control. Ask yourself, what parts of you have you been avoiding? What patterns keep repeating that you say you're done with, but secretly still hold on to? Shadow work is the process of reclaiming these exiled parts. It's not glamorous, it's not comfortable, but it's real and it's necessary, because integration is the only path to liberation. Next, conscious questioning. This might be the most underestimated power you have. The power to question everything, not with fear, not with cynicism, with curiosity, with courage. Ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Is it mine or was it inherited? Who benefits from me believing this? And most of all, what happens if I let it go? Your mind is not a prison, it's a playground, but only when you become the one asking the questions. Otherwise, it becomes a cage filled with other people's answers. Edgar Cayce believed that the soul's true path begins the moment it starts asking why. Not just about the world, but about the self. Why do I feel this? Why do I repeat this? Why do I fear this? And every honest question you ask unlocks another door. The fourth practice is embodiment of inner stillness. It's one thing to have spiritual insight. It's another to live it. To walk through chaos and remain calm. To be misunderstood and still stay rooted in truth. To meet your triggers with grace. Not repression, not reaction, but real presence. Inner stillness isn't passive, it's powerful. It's the eye of the storm, the frequency that changes rooms, diffuses conflict, and magnetizes truth. You cultivate it when you stop needing external validation, when you stop proving, performing, and posturing, when you simply are. In your body, in your breath, in your center. It's this stillness that recalibrates the code around you, because the simulation adjusts to your vibration. And when your vibration is still, strong, and sovereign, you become untouchable. This is what Cayce meant when he spoke of soul sovereignty. His formula was simple. Mind plus spirit plus body equals sovereign soul, not one or the other. All three aligned, the mind as the architect, the spirit as the animator, the body as the vessel. When those aspects of you are in harmony, when your thoughts are clear, your energy is focused, and your body is grounded, something extraordinary happens. You no longer react to the program, you redesign it. You changed your frequency. You stopped looping, you stopped mimicking. You became real. And in a world full of simulations, the real ones shine like beacons. That's what you are. Not an NPC, not a follower, but a code kanna, a conscious presence in a world desperate for consciousness. So let the old scripts burn, let the old loops dissolve, let the static fall away. Because you weren't sent here to blend in. You were sent here to awaken, and as you do, you'll become the signal in the noise, the voice in the silence, the reminder in the chaos that another way is possible, a way of clarity, of sovereignty, of soul. So the only question left is, will you become the architect of your reality, or keep running someone else's code? You already know the answer. You've heard a lot. You've felt it too. Not just in your mind, but in your gut, your chest, your very energy. That stirring, that's recognition. It's your soul remembering what it came here to do. Because this world, this so-called reality, was never meant to control you. It was built to challenge you, to test you, to see if you would forget who you are or remember. The truth is, you are not a product of the system. You are not the result of a script. You are not the echo of someone else's beliefs. You are presence, consciousness, creator. And while the rest of the world may be content running loops, living in patterns, reacting without awareness, you were never meant for that. That's why it always felt uncomfortable. That's why the jobs, the labels, the rules never quite fit. That's why you couldn't silence that whisper in the back of your mind, the one that kept saying, "There's more than this." You were right. There is. There always was. But now the decision is yours. Because once you've seen the code, once you've tasted the power of your awareness, you can't pretend you didn't. You can't go back. Not truly. You can ignore it, you can distract yourself, you can try to fit in again, but the spark's already lit, and it's only going to grow. That's the gift and the burden of awakening. You can't unknow the truth. And the truth is this: you've always had the power, you've always been the glitch in the program. You've always been the soul that sees the strings. And now, you're standing at the edge of a new path, one that doesn't guarantee comfort, one that doesn't promise applause, but one that leads to sovereignty, to clarity, to a life that you design, not the one you inherited, not the one you were conditioned into, but the one you choose. So ask yourself right now, in this moment, are you ready to stop playing the character and start becoming the creator? Are you ready to stop waiting for permission and start living on purpose? Are you ready to stop doubting the signs and start trusting your soul? Because this is the final choice, the one the simulation doesn't want you to make, the one that turns the whole program on its head. You can shut this off, go back to the loops, pretend it didn't hit something deep. Or you can breathe, drop into presence, and begin writing your reality like the conscious force you truly are. Edgar Cayce once said, "The spirit is life, the mind is the builder, the physical is the result." So what life will you animate? What reality will you build? What result will you live? This is your simulation now. And you're not here to follow the script, you're here to rewrite the entire story.